So there have only been a handful of major standard tournaments of this format, maybe slightly more than this many, but the red deck has really kind of left its mark on the format with a few real marquee performances. So you've got Martin Dang's Pro Tour win, which is the deck that I have here today, minus a couple changes that he suggested in his Pro Tour report. You have Michael Braverman finishing first in the Swiss at the Star City Invitational before being dispatched by a pretty bad matchup in the top 8. And then you have, in the finals of the Star City Open this past weekend in Providence, losing to Oliver Tomiko, you have Peter Wynn finishing second with the pure mono red list. So you've had two mono reds and one red green deck. But I kind of want to try this red green list to just see the top end of the power level. It also did win the Pro Tour, so maybe worth checking out. Kind of see where, I did Esper Dragons last week. I kind of want to see where the other end of the spectrum is in this format, and I can figure out the middle pretty well. I've played a lot of mid-range battles in this format, but I would like to see how far things get pushed in either direction before figuring out what weapons I need to fight both ends of it before figuring out the mid-range battles. So overall, this deck is 2 cards off of the list that Martin Dang won the Pro Tour with. He suggested these 2 cards exactly in his article. You've got -1 Frenzy Goblin, +1 Lightning Berserker. Frenzy Goblin, he said, didn't really do a lot, whereas Lightning Berserker hits pretty hard for a single card against control, which is good. And then -1 Hall of Triumph in the sideboard and +1 Scouring Sands. In these matchups where your creature size matters, it's usually against 1/1s or whatever. These Scouring Sands is more impactful because if you're behind, this card does nothing. Whereas if you are behind, this card does everything. And, you can always just... The way the threats work out in the deck and boarding against control, you have enough already. You don't really need another card to board in, like another Hall of Triumph, especially because that card's not even that great all the time. By control, I mean matchups where like Wild Slash or Lightning Strike might be bad. But anyways, my initial impression of this deck is that I'm going to expect the dash mechanic to do a ton of work. And just based on the way the creatures and spells are laid out, there's how many? 17 spells that aren't creatures, and that's a lot for a red deck in the modern era, I guess. I'm thinking back to some of the red decks I've played in the recent standard formats. You have to be a little more creature heavy in order to overwhelm some of the bigger threats, especially because you can't kill a Siege Rhino with these cards. So it's interesting to me that there's so many, and I think that a lot of that has to do with Hordling Outburst and Dragon Fodder and Goblin Rabble Master letting you be a bit more of a token strategy than a traditional red deck, which I think is like the big draw to this deck. It's a lot harder for one-for-one removal to catch up to you, and your opponents need specific cards to actually, aside from just playing Fleeceman and Siege Rhino, but aside from those 2 cards, they need very specific cards to interact with you defensively, and it forces their hand a lot better. Things about this list I like as well: 3 Zergo and not 4. That was just kind of something that I had in a lot of my lists, testing for the Pro Tour. It just seems wrong to ever draw multiples of this card. I mean, I guess you always played 4 Samaru, but back then you didn't have, all of these other 1-drops. Swiss Spear looks great. Definitely a card I don't want to say missed in Pro Tour testing, but underestimated a bit in terms of its impact relative to the other 1-drop options. Less Rabble Masters is another thing that I kind of miss as well. Pretty good change. Overall, I like this deck, and this won't become events. I'm just going to test it out because I really, really like this card, and I kind of want to see if it's good because I really hope it is. But tonight I'm going to be using a lot of Martin Dang's sideboard notes from the Pro Tour that he posted again online. Just kind of see where this deck takes me and what I can learn about how to beat it or how not to beat it. Because if you can't beat it, you may as well play it, right?